For a job of this type, where the concrete is going to be about 2 or 3 inches thick, you need to get the right pre-mixed and pre-bagged material. It's important that it contains aggregate, which in effect is small stones, and these will have been mixed at the factory with the correct proportions of sand and cement. Here you can see clearly the aggregate, which is about 1/2 inch maximum in size. Preparing the work area is important, as it can save you a lot of double handling of materials. So firstly, position your bags of ready mixed concrete near to the work site. Then find yourself a thin piece of plywood or hardboard to mix the concrete on. Remember that once you've added water, things can get messy, and there's nothing worse than leaving the site all splashed with the residues of mixing. Finally, make sure the area to be concreted is all ready and your formwork is in place and firmly positioned. Now it's time to add water to the mix, and it's always best to do this slowly, by adding water progressively in small quantities. If you pour in too much in one go, you will lose control and the concrete will run all over the place. You want to aim for a mix that is pliable but not over wet. Watch as I work towards the ideal mix. I realise that this is getting rather boring, but the mixing process is very important, and be assured that a thorough mix results in a much stronger concrete. So, once you have a nice pliable mixture, you can start placing the concrete in its final resting place. Aim to spread the mix evenly, keeping it about 1/2 inch below the finished level. The reason for this is that the surface tends to dry quite quickly, and as I want to produce a nice damp surface, it needs to be wet. So my plan is that after half the area is completed, I will go back, top it up, and then do the tamping. It's important that you make a special effort to consolidate the concrete around the edges, as if the face is ultimately to be exposed, the last thing you want is unsightly air pockets. As you can see, I've now completed nearly half the area, but note that I am paying particular attention to consolidating the concrete at the front, which is where a step is going to be formed. So now that half the area is complete, it's time to go back and bring the concrete up to its final level prior to tamping. As I mentioned before, pay particular attention to consolidating the concrete at the edges. Okay, so the concrete is now more or less up to its final level, and it's just a question of giving it a final smooth float before we start the tamping process. Now we are ready to start the tamping process, and you will find that a piece of old floorboard about 1 inch thick will make the ideal tamp. Start at one end of the work and lightly bounce the tamp up and down as you slowly draw it towards you. Don't get too concerned if one or two ridges develop as you proceed with the tamping process. These can be eliminated at the final stage when we brush the concrete. So with the first half completed and tamped, it's now time to fill the second stage with concrete, bring it to the correct level and give that section a tamp as well. With the entire area now concreted and the tamping completed, you'll be pleased to learn that the job is nearly finished. But now for a JB exclusive. How does one eliminate the high spots or rough tamp marks? Well, all that you have to do is lightly brush the concrete with a coarse broom. Just lay the broom on the surface and slowly draw it towards you. For that concours d'elegance finish, I would suggest a final brush with a very soft broom. And as before, just lay the broom on the surface of the concrete and slowly draw it towards you. Job done.